We're going to talk through logging in, your profile, a little bit of background on onboarding steps, services and opportunities, and then we'll jump into demo to talk through taking action on rotations and monitoring onboarding progress. So first things first, before we get into login, I'll just reference Clinician Nexus is a three-sided platform. So we have a health organization, such as your own, where your organization information, locations, what steps apply to students who will be rotating with you, what experiences you offer, your staff, all of that lives on your side of the platform. Schools have a similar side. They have much less to configure as they're just placing students or making requests. But they do have their own school profile where their staff and administrators are listed. And then students do have an account as well. So they're linked to their school from there. So all parties kind of being in the same place, being able to collaborate on rotation experiences. And we'll talk in more detail on that in a bit here. First things first, if you go to app.cliniciannexus.com, you'll be prompted to enter your email address. Now you should have received an invite from info@cliniciannexus.com. If you didn't, drop your email in the chat here so we know to resend that to you. But that link will bring you right to this login page. Again, the URL is here, but the link will bring you there. Once you enter your email, you will be prompted using single sign-on with your Hartford HealthCare credentials. So you don't need to set up a separate username and password to use Clinician Nexus. You'll just enter in your email and then provide your Hartford HealthCare related login information to be logged in. Once you log in, just so you are aware, like your account will have a profile. So how you get to that profile when you log in, you'll see your initials by default. And if you choose to upload a profile photo, that will replace that. But it's all the way in the top corner. And you can edit your profile and indicate any kind of additional details that you'd want to provide or have available for students or school coordinators who are interacting with you. The next piece is, again, one of the kind of building blocks within Clinician Nexus that Hartford has already set up. Our affiliation agreements function is the connection point between our school partners and our health organization. So in order for any scheduling, rotation requests, etc., to happen, you have to have an agreement that really links those two organizations together so that staff on the school side can interact with anything you have available. So those agreements live in the settings section. Again, we'll jump into demo and I'll reference a few of these things here, but it's in your settings section and in agreements. So if you ever need to reference what agreements we do have on file with different schools, what those start and end dates of those agreements are, that will be accessible for you to view within the platform as well. So that's kind of the first piece that's really a connection point between here's our organization and here's who we work with. Next from there, steps. So there's a variety of different types of steps, and they really just occur based on kind of where in the life cycle of that rotation the student is. So there's application and onboarding steps that would be prior to the rotation, as well as offboarding and evaluation steps for post-rotation. These steps, again, have been set up by academic affairs, and they will automatically show for any students that are scheduled or accepted into rotations. So just so you're aware, those get pre-built. They can be modified or updated as needed. Again, academic affairs kind of manages that end of things as far as what those requirements are. And you can reach out if there's any questions about anything that's in there or that would need to be added or things like that. Services are kind of our categories for what service line or department our organization offers care. We're not going to get in this section into the specifics of what rotations could occur in those certain areas or what types of students, but this is just to help us categorize so that when we're doing reporting, we can pull information by department so that that's all uniform and kind of succinct data. And then the last piece, again, so we're kind of talking through, we built out the organization, we've affiliated with certain sites, we've represented our service lines and where we offer patient care and therefore, in some cases, student experiences. And opportunities is really kind of the piece that will tie that together. An opportunity is equivalent, again, Clinician Nexus, we use the language opportunities, so that's how you'll see it in app. But you can consider that to be open placements that you would have. So within that, there's a bit more detail as far as what's being offered. So in this example here, I'm going to have a name for the type of experience. I'm going to have a location associated with that and a service line that it's occurring under, what schools it's open for, and then when that experience starts and ends. So when is that truly available? So it's kind of tying together all those pieces so that we have the right experiences over the timeframes that we do have availability, open to those school partners we work with, and categorized by the type of experience that they are. So these have been pre-built based on what availability is known at this time. Again, I'll go into it a little bit more in our demo environment as far as how you can look at those, make sure that everything you think should be listed is there, and things like that. But that's kind of the piece that now schools would be able to begin requesting and scheduling rotations on these opportunities that are available. And then just to step back, once again, all of that is created, which it is in your live account now. Once that happens, schools will begin to be able to act on rotation on those opportunities and request rotations for them. So the first thing that will happen is schools will come in and they'll submit a request that will be in a pending status. You all then would be able to accept or waitlist a student and assign a preceptor to that rotation if you're going to accept it. And then they would automatically move into an onboarding status. So that's if they are accepted. There's also an optional kind of waitlist option. If you're not sure if you'd be able to take them, but you don't want to close out the request altogether and you want to wait to see if you might have availability, there's that option. Once all the onboarding steps are complete, so those, again, those pieces of information that have been pre-built that are the requirements of the student or the school to complete, then once those are all complete, the student will move to a ready status until their start date, where they'll move to active. If there's any reason that they shouldn't advance, we have the option to pause a rotation. Maybe you need to pause it because they're going to start later and you're not sure what that start date is going to be, but you'd be able to do that. And then once their rotation has ended, they'll move to offboarding. Once any requirements that are needed after the rotation ends are complete, then the student will move into a completed status. Or if at any point in this process you determine that you can't take the student, they would go into a closed status. So with that, again, kind of the general workflow, and I won't go through this again, we'll provide you with this deck that has the kind of the details here. The first piece is creating opportunities for schools to interact with and have visibility to what you have available. They can then request a rotation on one of those opportunities. Then students will be notified that they've been scheduled, and you all as coordinators will be able to accept the student, decline, whatever needs to happen there, and add the preceptor, as well as add any detailed schedule if that's necessary or relevant to your student type. And then onboarding can be completed. So that's kind of high level workflow of all the steps in the process. I'm not going to go through this status, each of these rotation statuses in any more detail here than kind of my summary, but I do want to kind of just click through and make note that these are available with the definitions of what each status means in this PowerPoint for your reference later on. So just indicating what each of those statuses mean, so that you're able to take a look at that. So with that, I'm going to jump into our demo environment. So when I log into Clinician Nexus, this is the page that I will land on. It is called our rotations page. This is going to be all of the experiences that have been requested and maybe accepted, ready to go, active, or offboarding. So those statuses we mentioned previously are kind of across the top here, and they do move in sequential order kind of across the way here. So the first piece of note for you all as far as action items is when rotations come in and they're in this pending status, that will be your indication that this needs review and we need to determine if we can accept a student in this particular rotation. So what information you'll receive on here is what are the dates of the rotation that the coordinator or the student has requested. Where is that to take place, and what other details do we have about that opportunity that was created? And then who is the student? So when I click into here, I will see the kind of the relevant information at the top for what type of experience that has been requested. I'll see the staff associated with that information. I'll see the schedule, which I'll share a little bit more about later. And then I'll see the application steps. If they've been completed, you'll be able to open up that form and view any information that might be in there. Again, these are just sample application forms, but this is where you would see relevant information to that initial request. If we determine that we can take this student, again, once they've completed the application form itself and any kind of relevant information included in that application, there's a couple things that will be action items from here. And the order of operations of this is not necessarily important, but there's 3 things here. And one would be adding the preceptor that is going to be taking this student. So when I click add preceptor here under the clinic staff heading, it will populate my available list of preceptors, and I can assign somebody to this rotation. From there, I can also define a detailed schedule. Again, if that's relevant to the type of students that you have coming in and it's known. So I can put in a student and say, this student, yep, we can take them, but I want to assign that student would be coming for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as again, just as an example. So I've added the preceptor, I've indicated the schedule, I can save those changes, and then I can accept the rotation. So you can accept the rotation first and then enter in those details, totally up to you. But I can go ahead and accept. And then once I have accepted that rotation, you'll see when I go back to my dashboard here, that has moved out of my pending clinical site category into the onboarding section. So that's notifying the student and the school coordinator that we've accepted the rotation and the student can complete their onboarding. Clicking into one of the rotations in onboarding, again, you'll have those same set of details, who's part of this rotation, either by being a coordinator or the student themselves, or a preceptor. The schedule, again, I pulled up a different example here. So if I need to add a schedule after I've accepted, I can do that here. And then you'll see the onboarding steps that are, again, primarily the responsibility of the student or the school coordinator on their behalf. You can see on the left side here, we just have what is the requirement that needs to be done, any instructions or additional documents that are part of that, who's responsible for completing that step. So in this case, the student is Aaron, or a school coordinator can complete this on behalf of the student. In the center, I'll see the status of those steps. So completed, it's done, good to go. Things can be waived if there's edge cases where they don't necessarily apply in one situation. Awaiting verification, meaning that there is a requirement that requires a bit of review to ensure that it's the correct document or up to date. or incomplete, meaning it's not yet done. And then on the right side here, you'll see the ability to take action, again, either by completing or opening a completed submission, or waiving or verifying a particular item. So that's kind of the onboarding phase here. One other thing that will be on this page is this activity section over here on the far right side. From here, you can add comments to the rotation, so that this will notify all parties listed up here in this section. It's kind of an open kind of chat, basically, for these individuals to ask questions, add additional details, any comments about this particular student experience. So you can use that section for that. You can see I have a couple sample comments in here. And it will also log activity throughout the rotation. So earlier today, I completed a particular step on this rotation. So it's kind of a history of this rotation section to be able to review as needed there. From there, once the student has completed all of the information for their onboarding, the student will just automatically move into this ready status. So that means everything is done. We just haven't reached the start date yet. Once we do reach the start date, so on 11/3, Aaron's rotation will automatically move over into our active category, which means the rotation is ongoing. And then lastly, the offboarding section. This will be at the conclusion of a rotation if there's maybe a survey or an evaluation or any other offboarding that needs to be completed. Those rotations will land in this status so that individuals can complete any offboarding steps that maybe need to be completed at the end of the rotation. So there's an evaluation. Again, this is some sample information, but there's a sample evaluation. I need to add the hours that I completed, and this other one's waived. So we know these are the 3 things that need to be completed prior to the rotation going into our archive under the completed section. So I clicked over to our archive. By default, your active rotations will only show pending through offboarding status, but you can see historic rotations that either you've closed because you can't accept, or maybe are closed for other extenuating circumstances, as well as those who have moved all the way through the process from onboarding through their rotation and completed the offboarding requirements. From here, I'll show a couple of maybe items that would be helpful as you're kind of getting comfortable using this page. Note that there is a keyword search bar. So if I want to search for a specific student, I can narrow down kind of what's showing on my view just by keyword search, or I can add filters. And there's a lot of different filtering options. Again, you're welcome to kind of narrow down what's most useful for you to look at, however that would be helpful. Maybe a common example that I'll reference here is maybe I want to see everybody who's in onboarding status, but I don't necessarily need to see all of those from now until the far future here. I just want to look at start dates, and I'm going to use a custom number of days. So I don't want to see just today, but I want to see if they're starting in less than 30 days. Actually, I'll do 60 in this case. If they're starting in less than 60 days, I want to see this here so I know who are the students that are really coming up soon that I might need to pay a little more attention to. Once I have this information filtered down, I do also have the option of creating a saved view of this. So I don't always have to be looking at everything all the time, and I don't have to rebuild my filters each time I want to use them. If this is something common that I will use, I can go ahead and rename this. You can also add a description if you want to add any more text or details, and then you can go ahead and save that. So what that does is It creates a custom view, again, just for yourself. And I'll open up my views here. You can see right now I'm on this one. I have a number of others. If I ever need to get back to see all my rotations, I can just click that, add a new view. This will pull up all of those rotations that are listed. And you can pin this open if it's helpful for you to just see it kind of in a sidebar. So I'll go back to my saved view. One other thing that you can do with this rotations page is by default, we have it set in these columns. If you prefer to see that information in a calendar, I'll advance a little bit here to December. You'll be able to kind of view that information in a calendar format if that's preferable, or in kind of a set list view. So how you view that information is up to you. Again, by default, it's set to the columns, but you can use any of the three. It'll have the same rotations and information in that list, but just visibility kind of a little different just based on different preferences on how you want to view that info. So I'll go back to our kind of preset here. I think last thing on here, I do want to mention for all user types, so not just all of you, but also for school coordinators that you might be working with and any students, we do have some resources automatically kind of available in the platform here. Using this icon here, this is opens up a window here where you can direct chat with our support team. We are online from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. So you can send a quick message if you're stuck on something. Maybe you're not sure how to accept a rotation, or you have questions about that. Feel free to send us a message. That way you can kind of keep your screens up and going here and get responses from us live, so you don't have to exit out, go to a separate email and do that. So that is available, as well as some how-to guides. I know we'll provide the deck and the recording from our session, but you can also keyword search by articles to see, to just take a look at maybe a step-by-step guide of how to do something. So when you click into those, you will see this window pop up. Again, you can keyword search. You don't necessarily have to go by category, but you will see a bit of text information as well as kind of those indicators for where those buttons are to click to get through certain things. So that's all available to you all, as well as to students and schools.